Today's episode of Shifting Gears is brought to you by hamburgers. If you don't like hamburgers, then you can just get out of America. I am Joshua Clutchgrade. Joining me on Shifting Gears, I have a regular co-host, Duckville LOL, and DB Wiggin. Guys, thanks for joining me today. Today is going to be a fun day because we're going to have to take a break after this episode due to WCS happening live next week in a different venue this time because the venue we had burnt down. So thanks, Artosis, for predicting the venue is going to be fine because the opposite happened. It's so
you guys got some luck, man.
Yeah.
Jeez,
What's going to happen is the players are going to play at the NASL facilities, which we have been renovating and expanding. So we will have that there with invited guests only because there's only so many people we can fit. We'll still have the finals just as we planned at the Red Bull studio. So that is a change that has happened. It is very unfortunate because we were looking forward to the Barcraft style of the round of 16 with a big crowd. And the crowd can interact with the players. So it sucks. There's nothing that we could do. This was completely out of our hands. We were working around the clock to come up with a scenario that would work, and the biggest thing we have to think of is internet. You know, we think about these different bars, these different venues, and they'd be a lot of fun to have it, but they don't have the right internet for the stream. And that's one of the things we have to consider. So I have to say kudos to everyone working around the clock to come up with a solution, and sorry that it happened, but that's it. Speaking of WCS and StarCraft and Barcraft, Duckville, you attended a Barcraft recently. How did that go?
No, I didn't, but
there was one. You
there
said
was one.
Attendance was low.
You talked about it.
Yeah.
How did you know attendance was low if you weren't there?
Well, because I got my people on the ground, so it
sources,
wasn't low.
The hand
It
of
wasn't
Duckville
low.
reaches
It was,
far. Hand of
yeah,
Duckville.
exactly. I'm like what's his name? Varys. That's what it's like, except for the whole castration thing. Yeah, we had OES, of course, Oceanic Esports, who I am a part of. We had Barcraft up in Brisbane and also in Sydney as well, I believe, for IEM. It was really cool. Initially, it was kind of like, ooh, we're sort of missing some people up in the Brisbane event, but eventually, I think we did a lot better, and yeah, it was really fun. And shout out to Nissi, who set all that up and did a really good job doing that, and of course the other guys in Sydney. But yeah, there was, of course, Barcrafts on the weekend for IEM Shanghai, where our boy Aegis was over in China fighting for Australian pride, showing it wasn't as awesome as I was really hoping. I had a theory going into IEM Shanghai that I was going to reveal regarding proof of evolution, regarding Aegis, because he lives in a very Zergy environment, and he has developed a really, really good TVZ style, and I was really hoping that he was at least going to take a couple of games, maybe even beat Hyun, but unfortunately that didn't come about. So, but he did really well other than that, and so did Maynard. Shout out to Maynard for being a freaking damn good caster when he was there.
Sweet. Well, I remember you asking us to tweet about it because we're in a way different timeline or time zone in America, so it's kind of hard to watch. But
yeah,
good.
Not upvote anything on Reddit, of course, because that.
yeah. No, totally. Never upvote stuff on Reddit when I ask it to you guys. Ever.
I apologize for eating, but I have to eat these fries now. They're gonna get soggy later. So.
Yeah. But no, it's always good to support the Barcrafts if you can. Unfortunately, I have been very bad about, heading down to Barcrafts just because I kind of have work that's sort of on and off, and it's on weekends and stuff like that, so I kind of have to deal with that. But yeah, of course, there's always good ways to find your Barcrafts as well. You can head over to the Team Liquid Barcraft page. Of course, that's mostly if you're in America. Mm-hmm. You can find all the Barcrafts on. There's a Team Liquid Barcraft page.
America! A bald eagle just landed on my arm. Bye, eagle.
I like how he's eating fries and he's talking about America. Yeah. But and also, of course, yeah, exactly. There's also there's also there's a Reddit page for Barcrafts. There's all the stuff that Blizzard does. I really like that Blizzard support the Barcrafts as well by posting all the details and kind of stuff, and they send out, support packages with little dinky giveaway kind of things that Barcrafts can use to try and, bring in some more people. So it's really good to see how, especially considering where things started, that Barcrafts have really come a long way.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. I'm going to give a hint because people are asking me where these fries are from. I don't want to mention the name because maybe they'll be a sponsor in the future. We'll see.
Because it's going to cost them, and there's no reason to do it for free, right?
But here's a hint where the fries are from. All right.
It struggles.
Oh, it's a hot chili. Woo! It's a gamble. It's like Russian roulette. Which one's going to be spicy or not?
Did you guys ever see there was a pizza thing in, I think it was in New Zealand, where you take a risk because there's one slice on the pizza that has like really, really hot chilies underneath all the normal toppings.
That sounds like something Australia would do down in America, because there'd be lawsuits.
Sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Because it's like, which piece has these secret chilies that will destroy your brain or something like that? And it's like,
Pizza roulette.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It was so
do
cool.
credit card roulette and then that pizza roulette to see who pays.
All right, so let's go ahead and break down the round of 16, which is going to be happening next week. As a reminder, there will be no shifting gears because of it. Jaedong, he defeated Snoot 2-0, defeated Puck 2-1. He won his group 2-0, so he'll be facing Violet. Violet took down Wong Sin, lost to Revival, but then beat Wong Sin again, and he will face Jaedong in the round of 16. Oz got there through the Challenger League group stage. He took down Hero, and he took down Scarlet, and he will be facing Ryung. Ryung made it through from the Season 1 Premier League quarterfinals. He destroyed Major 0-2. He beat he lost to Major. He lost to Major 0-2, which was an upset. Then he destroyed
America.
ST. He destroyed ST 2-1. Mexico. South.
Or wait.
North America. It's North America.
Mexico? Okay. North America.
And he had to play Major again. He beat him 2-1. He'll be facing Oz. Then we have Muslim, who made it through the Challenger League bracket stage. He destroyed Huck, destroyed Crank, and he'll be facing Tasia. So we got a TVT on day 2. That's going to be pretty big. Tasia's going to win. If Muslim wins, that'll be one of the biggest upsets of all time.
Muslim was really good in his games.
Yeah, he's looking really good. He's looking very good.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that much. If there's like one guy that can do it, Muslim's always that.
Well, that'll be the biggest who we're going to root for. Because then after that, Tasia, he won his group 2-0. He will face Muslim, obviously. Minigun versus Alive is going to be another...
America!
Being a foreigner versus a Korean.
I could see that happening, too.
Yeah, Minigun lost to Apocalypse, then he beat Neeb. Then he stared Apocalypse in the face and said no. Just like Macho Man Randy Savage did a little while ago. And... he'll be up against Alive. Alive took down Suppy, lost to Sage, and then beat Suppy again. 2-1 both times against Suppy. So that's day 2. Day 3, we have Revival versus Sage. Revival, he took down Top, and then he took down Violent. Sage, he took down the Agnes, and he took down Alive. Max Said versus Scarlet. Do we consider Chinese players foreigners? They're foreigners,
America.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, wait.
They're
My
bad.
I'll count Max Said as a foreigner. So he won his group 2-1. He lost to Puck, beat Snoot, then beats Puck again. He faces Scarlet. Scarlet versus Max Said. This is a match I'm going to favor Scarlet. I think that Scarlet can do it. Scarlet took down Vibe 2-1, lost to Oz, but then beat Hero 2-1. And she has shown that any hero can fall in North America. Day 4, last day. Jim. That's right. Any tree can fall, any hero can fall. Jim, another Chinese player. He defeated Nestea, defeated Major, and he won his group 2-0. In the round of 16, he will face Alicia. We haven't heard from Alicia or seen Alicia a lot in America at least. And I don't mean WCS, I mean in MLGs and things, just because he's been busy, probably. But he entered the Season 2 Premier League through the Premier League quarterfinals of the last season. So we saw him in the last WCS. He took down Neeb, took down Apocalypse. Pult took down, or he lost to Tasia, but he took down Moonglade. Moonglade, unfortunately, Moonglade, we're all rooting for you. And he took down XY. He will face Crank. Crank destroyed the STC and destroyed Hawk. It was like a cat and mouse thing, man. They proxy gated twice against Hawk. The game against the STC, though, for Crank was pretty cool because Crank used some great Dark Templar to put a lot of harassment against the base of the STC. And in the second game, he had 2 flanks going and then a third flank, and I call it the Crank flank. It was a great flanking maneuver. He was all over the place attacking the different bases of the STC. So that was a good series to watch. And that's going to be the round of 16. So, go America.
Pult.
Go America.
Go Pult.
I
Do it
think
for freedom, Pult.
Pull
just
take
to
it. Pull take it. He's my
Yeah.
number one to win.
just to talk about a couple of the games that went on. I was really surprised about Oz in Group G. He went 2-0, and I was kind of surprised at that. I am the person who, when EG picked up Oz and Alive, I was kind of like, are you really going to grab those guys? They're kind of, especially Oz. I feel like Oz is one of the biggest yo-yo players. Like he is just, sometimes he is brilliant. He's really good. His PvP is really, really
Say
solid.
the same thing about Alive. It's a
Yeah, and
player.
well, exactly, and
They're
it's the
not
same
consistent.
thing with Alive. And when EG picked them up, I was like, okay, all right, they're okay sometimes, but why would you? That's a little bit of a risk. But they've been okay. They haven't necessarily been destroying things. They haven't necessarily been, last every time. But I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, if those two can make it out of their group, like even if it's like Tasia and Alive and Muslim doesn't make it, which would be sad, then that's a little bit of redemption for me in their eyes, especially seeing how well Oz did at IEM Shanghai. As we mentioned before, Muslim was damn good in his group. He just looks solid as hell. I still think he's one of the more underrated and unspoken of players, foreigner players in the scene. Like,
You think Demuslim is?
yeah.
Demuslim was one of the best performers in NESL. When the NESL was going on, he was one of the top performers there.
No, I know.
I think it's because I think he was doing great at the end of 2012 and 2013. We had the 5-month lapse that nothing was happening. We had no idea what was going on because WCS was being played and Heart of the Storm was happening. So because of that, he lost locomotion and traction. Just in his name getting bigger.
That's a good point. Yeah. What else was there?
It's not the first time he's had to take a break for a few months due to unforeseen circumstances. He broke his arm at one point, remember?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Also, Sage. I have loved Sage for a very long time, and it's part of the reason why Root is probably like my second favorite team.
Mm-hmm.
Is and he is really good. Sage is a player who casters like myself and general sort of community people will talk about players where they can throw out wacky builds sometimes, and it's kind of like, well, a lot of players do that, but Sage is a guy who will throw out a proxy double Stargate to get double oracles out in PvZ, and it's kind of like, who the hell does that? But it's still interesting, and it makes the game really interesting. He won't necessarily, again, he's a player who doesn't necessarily roll through, and he's not the top name you have in your mind to win a tournament, but he can get some really good games going and can produce some really good SC games. So
he really can.
I really hope that he does well in Group C. And
he's up against Tasia.
Yeah.
Tasia's gonna
No.
Pult.
Sage is in C. Tasia's in B. I'm
talking about Demuslim.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah. What else was there? Jim. Chinese Protoss Jim has been playing around with his Phoenix Colossus thing that everyone else is now playing around with because it's a really cool style. And I would like to see him move through, but it's going to be a big challenge for the Chinese player over in the group with Alicia Polton Crank. So
is Jim actually able to go? Didn't he have a visa problem where he?
I haven't heard
was
anything
that-
to the contrary of him not. Going.
Yeah, I think there was an issue. I don't know if it was fully. Yeah, I don't know if it was actually fully sorted out or
I
not
haven't heard.
sorted
I
out.
haven't heard any. I haven't heard any official word that he's not going to be there.
Okay. The
Yeah,
I guess just in case people don't know what we're talking about, for IEM Shanghai, I think he was disqualified because he was at the embassy getting his visa sorted out
For
for
WCS.
WCS, and then reportedly he wasn't able to get his visa, so he was also disqualified for WCS.
Oh.
But who knows if that's been resolved or anything.
I did hear that he had to give up his matches at IEM because he's at the embassy. That's the last
Yeah,
I heard officially.
That's right.
Anything else you want to talk about for the round of 16 before we talk about IEM?
Nope.
No? All right. Well, I'm looking
Nope.
forward to it. It does suck the venue is not going to be there, but hopefully we can get a bar craft going since we can't fit everyone, and they can enjoy it at the different bar crafts. Pretty much the one big bar craft in South. Well, there's two, but there's one in downtown LA-ish, and then there's one in Irvine, and the one in Irvine I've gone to, and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully we set that up. If not, there's no one really to be angry at except the cooks that didn't clean the grease out of their kitchens. That's the ones that ruined it. All right, so let's talk real quickly about IEM Shanghai. I hardly watched any of it. Duckville, did you watch a lot of it? Can you comment on it?
Yeah, really well done. Well, just in general, speaking of the event, production itself was really well done, as per usual for IEM.
Damn it, Wigan. Sorry, he wrote something in chat.
To it was a really big WCS event as well. I believe the first place was 750 WCS points, so that's a heap of points to be up for grabs there. And I think overall, apparently it was really, really hot in Shanghai.
It was
and of
loud.
course,
I could hear people in the background.
Yeah, exactly. You could hear all that kind of stuff going on in the background. But I think it went really well. Of course, we had Revival taking the grand final against Oz. As I said, Oz, a player who I think is a little bit yo-yo-ish, but was able to produce some really good games. He was very solid. I think a lot of people, including myself, would probably say that maybe Hero versus Revival would have been a little bit more interesting, because in the grand final, Oz just kind of you could see it, his mindset was just dissolving like the Wicked Witch of the West or something like that, because every game that he lost, it was literally like he was just kind of I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he did this like on multiple occasions, like putting his head in his hands, and he was just falling apart, and it was displaying in his gameplay as well. He made some, I think in the last two games, he made some very, very average decisions. They weren't necessarily like he move clicked across the map or something like that, but just his decisions some of the time was kind of like, why would you do that? And that's a little bit sketchy for like a Grandmasters Korean player, a player who has been in GSL multiple times, and it's kind of like, ouch. So they had some really good games.
I think after that first game, he looked up what the prize pool was for second place and just said that's enough, I think.
I'm tired. I'm tired.
It's like, well, I never beat Revival in practice, so
it's
$4,000
funny.
is enough.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how players will do that sometimes. Like in some of the events that, like some of the local events that I cast, like the Masters Cup, and we did the CNA trials a couple of weeks ago. It's funny how players, like, when it gets kind of late, it's kind of like 10, 11 o'clock, and your brain is just like, I can't do this anymore, and players will just do cheesy shit to try and finish off the game really quickly.
Yeah.
But anyway, some of the games are really good. Hero, damn good against Hyun. The Revival versus Pulse series was pretty good. If you haven't seen that one, check that out.
Okay.
Revival MC was also really good. So Yeah, there was some really good matches. The casters did a wonderful job, as we mentioned before. Maynard from Australia flew over with a couple of other Australians. In Fezza was there observing. He did an excellent job at doing the old observing, and yeah, I think it was a really great production from the ESL IM team. As I said, lots of WCS points as well. So 750 points went to Revival, 450 for Oz. And if I just have a look at ye olde WCS points table, so Innovation up top, Revival with that 750, he jumped up to sixth spot, which is that's pretty decent for him. So,
Is this
yeah, I
overall?
guess-
Is this all of WCS or is this America?
yeah, this is overall the entire world. So it's the list at the moment is Innovation, Sulky, and Hero in WCS points. For first, second, and third. MVP shortly behind, then SOS, Revival, Alive, Stefano. So, yeah, I mean, good event as always. I can't wait for the next one, which I believe is Poland, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, really good weekend. And next one should be really good too.
Cool. Well, I had a very, very good weekend because it was for the last season play for the Wargaming.net League North America World of Tanks. And the last guy on Sunday was crazy the last day, the last amount of games. The playoffs, the tiebreakers. We started at 5 o'clock, which is our normal time, and I left the studio at midnight. We had a little bit of a production meeting afterwards, so we were late. We were up late commentating on these games, and they were very, very good. We saw some of the craziest play. For example, there's one tank, a T-69. It's an American tank. It's a very good medium tank, and it has 4 rounds in its magazine before it has to reload. And this other guy was in an IS-3 tank, a Soviet tank, and he was the last guy alive. He had 7 hit points left. The T-69 had 1,473 hit points left. It was only down 7 hit points. And it was the last fight. Those were the last 2 tanks that were alive. And so we're all thinking, okay, this is it. Jurassic's going to die. He has 7 hit points. The T-69 can hit him, and he'll kill him. If the T-69 was a heavier tank. The T-69 misses all 4 of his shots. Durasta is able to angle his tank, and how the game works based on your angle, armor, and all these different mathematical properties. Your shell will either penetrate the tank and kill it, or hurt it, or not. And all 4 of those shots either missed or did not penetrate. So Durasta had over 20 seconds before the enemy tank had time to reload, and Durasta was able to get the kill. And that meant that his team was going to the playoffs. It was insane, man. I almost lost my voice. We were going crazy. And then during the playoffs, on Pro Kahorvka, there's a certain draw distance or distance that your tank can spot another tank. And they couldn't see each other anymore, but the guy had seen him right before he disappeared, and he kept firing. And at the last second, he blind fired and got the kill on another map. So the insane closeness of all these different games was fantastic. It truly was an amazing night to end the season on. And that means we do have our 8 teams going to Las Vegas. They are Fulcrum, Simp, Nerve, Scurry Hard, Wreak Havoc, Cunninghams, Simple Tankers, and River of Blood. Those will be our 8 teams that will join us in Las Vegas at Treasure Island, which is going to be a lot of fun. That's happening August 10th and 11th. And what's also really cool is most of these guys live in North America, and all of them speak English. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to...
What are you trying to say, Clutch?
Nothing.
That there are other tournaments where...
I'm saying that I look forward to working at a tournament that we can have a lot of fun with the players. So it's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it. And I am excited for this Season 1, how it turned out. I'm really excited for the finals. And it's free admission. So the spectators don't have to pay anything to get in. And I'm excited about that as well. So hopefully we'll have a lot of people show up. We have a lot of neat things planned for our tournament. And Season 2 will be around the corner after that. So stay tuned for that as well. But we did a great job on Season 1. Everyone did. And a lot of people that are commenting in the chat room saying they enjoyed it as well. We're going to have a marathon starting August 8th, so all the 8 teams that have qualified for Vegas each day, you can see all of their games on that day, and you get more information at wglna.com. Let's go ahead and shift gears now, talking about MMOs and the progression itch. And it's so funny, Dave, that you guys jumped on PlanetSide, because lately I've been feeling that need, that drive. For some reason, I don't know, because I bought a lot of games on Steam, and it's not like I have a whole lot of time to kill, because I don't. I hardly have any time. The itch to play an MMO again. I want to progress. I want to get better armor. I want to go up in levels. I want to fight stuff. I want to have that drive of PvP. And so I actually updated Guild Wars 2 and played some PvP of that for a little bit. Do you, newbie, just sub to WoW again? I thought about subbing to WoW again. Because I have friends at Blizzard. I have friends at Blizzard and some other celebrity friends that are jumping in on that server, and I've been tempted to go. So it's tough, man, because if I start this, I want to see it to the end. But now that I have PlanetSide to play again with friends, I'd much rather play it with friends that I can talk to on Skype and have a lot of fun with than just playing with random people. Dave, I want to get your thoughts on this first, man, because you have jumped back to WoW a couple years ago. I jumped on the server to play with you, then you quit the next day. So I was like, great, there went my $25.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was a WoW player for such a long time, like in a really hardcore one.
Yeah.
I mean, like edge of progression and arenas and all that from vanilla through Burning Crusade. Like MMOs are really fun, man. It's a really, really good addictive system of just the idea of the progression and being able to not only be, for me, be better than people, but be able to show off that I'm better than people.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to like roll into Stormwind or wherever and be like, check out all this cool shit I have that you don't, you know. That's just like everybody loves that. Or even and MMOs always have that ability to anybody can play it at their own pace, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, no, that was half the fun is when you got that PvP piece. Even for Star Wars: The Old Republic, you would get the same piece 5 times in a row, which was so annoying. But you finally get another piece, and you go, guys, I got another piece. Let's ball it up, yo! And you're doing just that much more damage, but it means so much to you. You know, and it fuels you to keep playing. That's what I miss. And
it's fun.
I have something that I am now actually better than everyone else around me, and I want to destroy them.
Yeah, and just being able to like have that tangible, tangible reward of of just seeing you gain something as you play and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It's a good system, and I kind of feel you the same way. Like I quit WoW and said I'd never go back, and I've been good on that. But it would be nice if there was something else out there other than WoW that was sort of good enough to become that new popular MMO. Like WoW needs some competition, man.
I don't think anything will dethrone WoW.
I mean, eventually it's gonna die. It
will. Blizzard knows that. Everyone knows that. Yeah, it's
going down for the past 6 months for quite a while.
Yeah, it's the most amount of people it's had is 15-something million, and now subscriptions are down to 7. But they still have great content that's coming out, and that's why I'm still tempted to play it, because the Panda expansion I heard was great, and you have pet battles and all these things that they've added to it. That's fun to play with your friends. And now that I have a lot of friends with Blizzard that want me to play with them, I'm tempted to do it because I get to enjoy that content and also all the collector items that I have for WoW because I've bought all the collector's editions or been given the collector's editions for the other games. So it's honestly more of that social experience of playing with people that I know in real life compared to I just want to kill time. It's like, not really. I don't want to jump on there and kill time because I got other games to play. But that's why I'm excited to play PlanetSide 2 with you guys because I actually know you guys. And we can have fun. Today, for instance, we were playing a little bit earlier today, and we were inside the base. We were destroying one of the power generators, but they had spawned a tank. And I'm like, dude, there's a tank right in front of me, Dave. I need help, and I'm spawning it with Q. And Dave rolls in with a mosquito up top and just launches a bunch of rockets into it, and it blows up. I'm like, oh, yeah, just shooting at it and stuff. It was awesome. Those kind of moments you want to try to recreate over and over again because it's so much fun. You can't get the same thing when you're just grinding on your own. Like, I'm trying to get those cert points, guys, so I can get better stuff. It gets tedious. It's tedious. It's fun.
Yeah, I recently got back into WoW because I wanted to try out the monk. I wanted to see what the Pandaria expansion was like. Initially, I kind of wanted to kill myself because monk was so incredibly boring. I know it's a very sort of standard line to take, but it has been very much casualized from what the game used to be, and it depends on your perspective, but WoW is still a really good game. It's much more there's not as much, I suppose, demand on the player to be some massive min-maxing, let's go to, a tankspot.com and all this kind of stuff to figure out what gear do I need, what kind of, skills do I need, all this kind of stuff.
That's how it was when you were top level in WoW. Like, you can't raid with us unless you get this, and you have to go get that to get this, and then you have to do this. It's just checklist of numbers.
And look, that's part of it in a way that,
but I mean, that's
a lot of
MMOs,
people liked. Yeah, I mean,
when
exactly,
you really break it down, you're just getting numbers to get slightly better numbers.
It is, but I mean, it's like, I want to go check out this new content, but if I have to go grind for 6 weeks just to check out a boss that I haven't seen yet, no thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends on your perspective. You'll have people who like that, some people that don't. I know a few people who were really big hardcore raiders, and they just laugh at the game now because it is like very easy to get to content. Yeah. But then of course, there's the people who like to look. Yeah, and there's people who like to look at the lore and some of the boss fights and that kind of stuff who will say, thank God they actually changed this system so I don't have to run something a 50 billion times to get that chess piece, otherwise I can't ever get into it. And you were mentioning going into a place like a whole bunch of times to try and get an item. When I was in BC and I was on I had a warrior, a troll warrior. I was like the only one on my server. I went into, do you remember Mekana in BC? I went into Mekana, like, I think it was in total, it was just one of the 5-man heroics. I went in there like a total of, I think in total it was 26 times, because there was a tank sword in there that was kind of needed to get into raiding, or at least starting out in Karazhan and then moving on from there. But it was the funniest thing, because every time I go in there, it would never drop, and all my friends in the guild were like, and then eventually I got it, and it's like, oh, it's like, yes, finally.
The sword of 1,000 truths.
Yeah, pretty much. And that kind of feeling, like I saw a discussion on Twitter about this the other day between a couple of people, and that kind of feeling that, yes, I got it. Yes, I'm able to show off to my friends. That's not there as much anymore, just purely because of the fact that the game is much easier to get into some of the higher content. And again, this is something where you're either against it or you're for it. There's very few people who are kind of middle ground. But I think taking away that aspect, personally for me, I'm not a huge fan of that, because of the fact that, back in BC and that kind of stuff, we had, like, as some people call it, the welfare epics, like the PvP stuff that you could get to then go into raiding. Yeah. Basically, everything is like welfare pieces these days, just because it can be so easy to get to stuff. But, it's I suppose it may be a sign of the way that they've decided to design the games these days, just because, with esports becoming a bigger thing, more casual players are out there. And if your game doesn't have any kind of casual appeal, you can run into a wall. You either will get lots of hardcore people who will love the game, or you'll get hardcore people and casual people, which obviously brings in more money. So
I wish there was some sort of armor progression or item progression for PvP, because if David and I, if we played 6 hours last night and we got some great gear, then we queue the next day and we're rolling through noobs for a couple hours, that's just fun. That is just straight up fun. And people are like, wow, why are they destroying us? Because we put in the time longer than you have. You put in the time, you'll have the same amount of items as we do. I miss that. I miss that little bit of reward that you put in the time to get some great gear, and you're matched up with people that don't. And so in Vanilla WoW, as a Ret Paladin, I remember having 2-on-1s and killing both of them with barely any health left and using my 1 hour cooldown. Greatest feels ever.
It's probably because you were the only Ret Paladin in Vanilla WoW. They'd never seen it before.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what is this? And I could use my my Divine Intervention and still live after 6 seconds. Nothing could touch me. And they're like, what the hell? What is that bubble? And then I would kill them. It was great. I loved that feeling. And I love that progression of my hard work is paying off because I can perform well in the game. That is not there for Guild Wars 2. Everything is cosmetic. So when you play it, it starts to turn into kind of the same thing if you're not playing with friends. And I wish there was that type of progression. Now, with the whole esports thing, yes, everything should be balanced. We all agree on that. But when it comes to just grinding through PvP and having fun with your friends, if we all had the best gear in Star Wars The Old Republic and we join Hutball and we're just destroying them, that's fun for like an hour. And yes, I'd love to get matched up to people that would have the same gear later on or the same skill set. And that's where you get into the MMR rating or the ELO ratings. Fine with me, that's great too. But I really wish we had more of that, because to me, that is the longer lasting value of any game, is the player versus player multiplayer component. And for an MMO, that's crazy addiction, man. If you want to keep getting better and better to compete against others and have just a slight one-up against others, that's fun. And PlanetSide 2 has a bit of that, because if you have played your class longer, you're going to have a better gun. You're going to have a shield you can use. You can have more grenades.
Shotgun.
Yeah, so you feel that you're tactically better on the battlefield and that your hard work has paid off in this competitive format. And
I think that was the magic of World of Warcraft when it first came out,
Yeah.
especially in vanilla, is it had that to a pretty extreme level, especially with the early PvP systems. Like when they first put Battlegrounds in before it was cross server, and you had to just grind for months to get like Grand Marshal or something like that. There was that extreme sort of, I'm being rewarded, I'm getting something that nobody else has because I'm better than everyone else for a while.
Yeah.
But there was also, the game was there for the people that just wanted to casually quest or group or just look at the lore and things like that. And that's what I think made WoW so popular, and that nobody else has really captured. It was good for everybody. There was that stuff you could do for everyone.
It was a new adventure for everyone. Everyone was still
Yeah.
figuring it out. And that's the fun of playing an MMO for the first time. Everyone is still learning together. That's what was fun about Guild Wars 2 when it came out. But then once you reach that wall, and the same thing for the Old Republic, once you reach that wall, what do we do now? We have to fight the same boss over and over again? No thanks. This is not fun. I do not enjoy this anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's tough because we want to look for that. Is that going to happen with Titanfall? Don't know. Is that going to happen with other games? Is there going to be some sort of armor progression or something in Titanfall? It's
Probably
all
not.
multiplayer.
I don't know. Who
It's
knows?
possible. It's possible.
I hope so.
Okay, I want to address this question that Enders116 sent me. He says, I love StarCraft 2 and I love Chinese culture. I do bilingual casting in English and Chinese. I'm a non-native speaker that is near fluent. My major is Chinese in university. Initially, I wanted to go to IEM Shanghai as a commentator, stage host, personality that had the opportunity to go to an event in person. I ran the Twitch channel, ESL Taiwan. He's got a lot of friends on Facebook, and as Weibo's getting bigger, what can I do to convince an organization to send me to the next big esports event in China, Taiwan? You're going to have to physically go to an event yourself, man, unless you go to an event in America and start to make connections that way, because if they don't see you in person, then they're not going to be as acceptable of taking a chance on you. Nathanius was someone they took a chance with because people had known Nathanius in person by competing or going to events in person, I believe. I'd worked with Nathanius over online, and I liked working with him. We commented an Alienware event together. So my first big piece of advice, if you can get to an event in person and try to make connections in person, that's the best route to take, because trying to network online, it's possible. It's completely possible because the communication is very, very quick. But the lasting value, the quality of the connection means a lot more when you can do it in person. That's my biggest note for you.
Yeah, I mean, just like even the way that me and Clutch got hired originally at MLG, it was show up in person,
Yep.
network in person, get face to face with people, and leave a good impression. And to be honest, most people I know that got hired in esports in any way, it started with them volunteering for something, and then it became like they've shown that they've done a good job. They're shown that they're reliable.
Yeah.
Then it becomes something you can get paid to do.
I've kind of got the flip side to that personally, just being here in Australia where there isn't as much notable content going on. I think, especially if you're in China, Enders, are you actually in China or are you in? If you just want to post in the chat, I'll have a look in a second, and once it catches up. But if you're in an environment, and personally, I kind of feel like I'm in a really good question to sort of relate to where your sort of situation at the moment, because of course, you know, China is okay, you're in the US. Well, damn, you're in a better spot than I am, buddy. Basically, if let's just say, you know, if you were in a little bit of a locale that was harder to sort of connect with people, number one would obviously be the Barcrafts if you can rock up. But generally, like the way that I haven't, you know, I haven't casted an MLG or actually been at a DreamHack casting or things like that, but I have done, I've done the IEM Siege, Kesper qualifiers as well, and you know, I've done a couple of DreamHacks now. This year has actually been really good for me, but I think one of the things is to establish your path of progression. You don't want to just say, I'm going to DreamHack. You kind of want to make sure, it's kind of like, I'm sure Clutch will know about this as well. It's kind of like establishing a portfolio of work that you've done. And for me, originally I started out casting Korean replays that I had taken off a site called PlayXP. Do a lot of Korean replays and then NA replays and this kind of stuff. And then I started doing a lot of local stuff as well. Once I fixed up my stream a little bit, I started casting local C clan matches and you know, stuff like that. And it's sort of, it's a very much a progression kind of thing. Like we talk about this in with regarding MMOs, but in a way it's kind of the same thing with becoming a part of esports, is that, which is kind of ironic in a way. But you can sort of grow things organically like that.
With that portfolio, you have something to back you when you do talk to people in person. Just like what I had when Dave and I met Lee and Mark from MLG. You know, they saw it was simple, but they saw the YouTube channel we had documenting Dave and myself and a friend being in Raleigh and going to the MLG events. So they saw that, okay, this guy knows how a camera works, so I got hired as a cameraman. Dave knew the game. He was a player. He got hired to be an admin. You have physical evidence to show that it's not just a piece of paper on a resume. You have the backing. And you do have the backing because I went and just visited your channel, and you've been involved in different events. So just like Duckville said, have that as a portfolio. And when you do have opportunities that you can do things online, if you can commentate something online, go for it, go for it, go for it. If it's not paid, you're going to have to go for it as volunteer work, because a lot of it is just not paid. But you keep,
that in particular, yeah.
You keep building that repertoire up. And Duckville, the reason we're friends with Duckville is not just because he's an awesome guy, because we all know that, but he sent in a request to be a commentator for the beta program for MLG. And I listened to him, and I went, oh, he's Australian, and he knows what he's talking about. And
oh, he's got an accent.
Yeah.
Get him in
The women are gonna love him. I thought the women are gonna love this. We got to get this Australian, and that helped him. So it is so difficult, but it's just like the acting world, man. Everybody wants in, and it's gonna take hard work, hustle, timing, a little bit of luck, and that's how it works. And it's gonna take time. We're 3 years in, Dave, and this has been a great stepping stone for me to get in a place that I'm getting close to career-wise of where I wanted to be, but I'm not satisfied. I'm still, and you have to have that drive of like, this is fantastic, but I'm still not satisfied. I want more. I want to do more. I want to be involved with more, and it's that type of hunger that keeps people going. I mean, that's the type of hunger that keeps actors going, man. John Hamm, you know, he didn't catch his break until Mad Men, and is well into his 30s, 40s. So it takes a lot. It's all about timing and stuff.
it's also important to depending on what you're wanting to go for. If you're wanting to be like a host or a caster, don't neglect options of doing a couple of other things that may not be in the path you actually want. Like kind of like having a real life job. You don't necessarily get to be the CEO of a company straight away. Sometimes you have to flip some burgers starting off. I think it's really important to if like a tournament in particular needs an admin, if they need another Wigan to help out with organizing games, keeping the players in check, setting up details of all sorts of other stuff that the admins do, you can also do that as well. Like, I mean, people really love to have good admins around to help out with that kind of stuff, particularly with tournaments like this. If it's about helping out with social media, all these kinds of things. Make sure that you do help out with those other things as well that won't necessarily be the same as what you want to do, but they do help out in getting you noticed and sort of, adding to the profile, as we've been talking about with, things that you can say you've done. I've been an admin for, DreamHack, or I've, as Clutch said, I worked the camera at MLG or something like that. And all these things add together.
Yep, they do. Okay, but thanks for that question and best of luck to you. Let's go ahead and finish out the day, gents, with the Time to Opine section, which is turning out to be my favorite section. Superhero morality. And I brought this up because Batman has been announced for Man of Steel 2. People are wondering, does Superman still fight for truth, justice, and the American way? No, because we have so many people that watch movies in China that he now is the world's superhero, not just American. Yet he says, I'm from Kansas at the end. So for a lot of the things that Man of Steel did wrong, it still did a lot of things that were right. It sets up a world, too, of who does Superman fight for? And is it an idealistic, nationalistic sense when our nation is wrong in a lot of things right now? Or is it more of an internal perspective that was taught by his parents? And that's what Man of Steel did wrong. Superman is Superman because of Jonathan and Martha Kent and how they raised him. It's not just because he has superpowers, and that movie missed out a lot on that. If you really want to hone in and capture the beautiful story of Superman becoming Superman, watch Smallville. 10 years of excellence in that.
But they had a little bit longer to tell that story than Man of Steel did, though.
They did. I know they did. I know.
They're like, we got to fit the whole backstory in the first 40 minutes or so, and then.
But with those 40 minutes, they could have done a better job. All right, so Superman versus Batman. The morality of these two characters. You have the Boy Scout versus the rich emo kid. How do you align yourself with the morality of a superhero? How do they align the morality? What's right and wrong, especially in a society that is a lot different than the 40s and 50s? How is that determined? How is that decided? And whose side are you on if it came down to the nationalistic Superman versus the individualistic Batman?
Let's face it, Batman's just out to boost up the stocks of
maybe that's not even the argument. Maybe I got the argument completely wrong. But what are your thoughts, Dave?
I think you got closer to the argument when you said if you had to pick between, say, it's Batman versus Superman, you pick morality. You have to sort of define what they represent, and that's it's a little bit difficult these days, right? Like, does Superman still represent America? The quintessential patriotic American kind of superhero, even though he's not from America, versus Batman, who is the what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody who operates outside of the law.
Vigilante.
Vigilante, thank you. The vigilante, he has his own moral code, and he doesn't let the laws of the land get in the way.
You know what I think?
Is that how you would define them? Because I think it'd be pretty easy to say Batman these days, right?
But
Batman
but Batman's code is flawed, and you can maybe say the same thing about Superman. But Batman's flawed code is that he doesn't kill. And Superman, in Man of Steel. Sorry guys, this is spoilers. In Man of Steel, Superman had to kill unless innocents died. If Batman was in that scenario, would he have done what Superman did?
Um,
You'd probably say Batman would never be in that scenario. He's too smart. But
I'm not. I mean, I'm not too up on comics, to be honest. But I'm sure there's a circumstance when Batman has killed. Didn't he have to kill the Joker at some point?
in The Dark Knight Returns, did you ever see that yet? Have you seen the animated series or read the comic book?
I haven't.
Because that's one of the biggest moral struggles between Superman and Batman, which is fantastic. I'll go ahead and relay the story, but if you haven't watched it, you really need to on Amazon. Batman's really old. He's like in his 70s, 60s maybe. He's retired. And Gordon is about to retire, and things have gotten pretty bad in Gotham. There's this mutant gang. And Batman decides, I'm going to come back out of retirement. I got to clean up this city, and he does. And that's the first half of the story. The second half of the story is Superman works for Washington. He represents America, and he's working with Washington. This came out during the 80s. Reagan's president. And the tensions are high against Russia. And the U.S. invades this island because it has natural resources they need that's a part of Russia. And they're saying that they want to liberate it from the USSR. and
Whoa, Clutch, sorry,
That's
hang on.
completely unrealistic.
No, it's funny. What?
Was there natural resources there, or were there possibly weapons of mass destruction there?
It could have
Let's
been
get
both.
that-
Well, it's
clear
so
that
funny
up.
because the person that's playing the president, which is actually a caricature of Reagan, which I've liked Reagan. I don't know a whole lot about his policies, but just him as a person, I've always liked him and how he dealt with himself. But it was a caricature of Reagan, and he's like, we're going to have to go to this island because of our interests. I mean, because we're spreading freedom or something like that. So they send Superman there, and Superman takes care of the Russians, all right? And Batman is like, Clark, you're not doing the right thing, even though you're supposed to protect America's interests, or you're the American Boy Scout. America's not doing the right thing. So that's the morality question of Batman, who's in the right as a vigilante, and Superman, who's not in the right. And Superman's trying to prevent the war, and this nuke gets launched, and Superman has to take care of the nuke and stuff. But you see that Reagan and Washington's concerned about Batman coming out of retirement, so they tell Clark, like, listen, you have to take care of this. And that's why Zack Snyder quotes that quote before he announced Man of Steel 2, because Batman takes this pill, which ups his adrenaline. It's not good for his heart. Puts on this whole suit and just starts fighting with Superman. They're fighting back and forth. Clark's like, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. And Batman is like, listen, I want you to know, as my hand is gripping your throat and you take your last breath, that I'm the man who beat you. Oliver Queen helped, and he launched an arrow that had kryptonite dust in it. And so he could have destroyed Superman. And it was the moral question of Superman if he was in the right and wrong, and he was in the wrong at that time. So he needed someone like Batman, who is the vigilante, who is outside the system, to know the difference between right and wrong, outside of flags, borders, things like that. So the reason I bring this up is because some people think they have to change our superheroes for the times, right? Our society is different than what it was in the past. I say that a sliver of that is true. But part of what makes these heroes heroes is because of their values. That's why we looked up to them in the past, and that's why we look up to them today. Captain America, that is my favorite Marvel film for the Marvel Avenger age, this age. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite film of all the Marvel heroes. But for the Avengers, yeah, I actually watched it again last night, and it was so much better the second time. But it's what the Doctor always tells them. It's not that you are a perfect soldier, but that you're a good man. And to me, that's what makes the moral compass of Superman so right, at least with Smallville, is that, yes, he is a god, but it's because that he's a good man that he has that strong moral compass of what's right and wrong. So you guys argue any of that? Do you agree? Your thoughts moving into this society and the morals of superheroes?
I think that I'm more with what Wanjockey says in the chat. I think the flaws of superheroes is what makes them most interesting, and where you get the most interesting discussion. Mm-hmm. Which is part of the reason I haven't been a fan of Superman until recently, because his flaw is kryptonite, not a moral or ethical question or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, But anyway, and I think that what we consider right and wrong changes, and what's like, so the superheroes have to change with society to keep them interesting, right? Like, Superman wouldn't be interesting if he was just this untouchable, like, god that does what America wants, right? Like, that wouldn't be interesting for people now, because what if Superman's the NSA, right? Like, what if Superman is just sitting above, just watching people take a leak, like spying and reporting to Washington, right? That's not that's I mean, I guess that would be an interesting storyline, but that wouldn't be a hero for people to look up to anymore, right?
Yes.
Like, they have to change with the times because people change with the times, and what we think is heroic changes with the times.
But does morality change with the times? Or are there universal truths?
I mean,
that will always be the same?
that's like a question that philosophers still don't even know. Is there, like, is right and wrong a thing?
Well, comic books and
exists?
superheroes is philosophy. It's a presentation of philosophy. You have a god surrounded by mortals who is supposed to be a moral compass, or the opposite.
I mean, I think there's, like, subtleties that change, right? Like, I think that, like, for me personally, if the next Superman movie was just him, like, confirming the fact that he's like, oh, USA, 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 I would find that unpalatable. Like, I wouldn't find that interesting. I wouldn't be rooting for Superman anymore, because I don't root for that attitude anymore in people. Like, I think that you should question, like, your government and what it's doing, especially in regards to what the United States is doing recently. So if a superhero was trying to toe the line, I would find that uninteresting. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, if you did Superman versus so, like, in a possible Superman versus Batman kind of situation where it's Superman who's doing whatever the U.S. wants and he's invading countries or whatever, and Batman's fighting against that, like, even though that Batman would be going against patriotic, like, interests, I would probably go with Batman in that situation. Right?
But then you could say that what America is doing as a government is unpatriotic if it's against the will of the people. Yeah, no, that's very true. You have a moral stance that changes between those two heroes, or what your choice is. So therefore, there has to be a morality outside the confines of nationalism, outside the confines of government, if that government can change.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think that superheroes, like, are such an interesting.
I mean, the biggest thing that I want to hone this in here, because I'm thinking about the storyline of Man of Steel 2, and I listened to Kevin James talk about this on his podcast, Fat Man on Batman. Make sure to check that out, because the Man of Steel special went over so many great things in that episode, because there's so many truths on both sides of the argument of it was a good movie, it was a bad movie for the Man of Steel. But here you introduce in the Man of Steel 2 Lex Luthor, who is saying, who is this alien that has come to Earth, and because of him, a lot of Metropolis is destroyed. Somebody has to fight against him, even if he says what he's doing is right. And that man is Lex Luthor. So in his mind, Lex Luthor is fighting the moral fight, even though he's a criminal and does all these things. He kind of believes in something higher of, listen, I have to achieve all these criminal activities so I can have the funds necessary to fight against a god. Then you have a different sense of morality. And if you have Superman, if they don't trust Superman, or if he's trying to stop a government agenda and then Batman gets involved, you know, that's an interesting conundrum between these two heroes. These heroes will always be larger than life itself. And that is the disconnect between them and their audience. The connection is, just like Dave said, the flaw and their struggles. And I look forward to what type of struggles are going to happen in Man of Steel 2, because right now, Metropolis is a huge effing mess, and this entire world has changed. It's completely different than what it was 50 years ago. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen.
I think that's the only difference we have in that is, you think that superheroes in their morality should stay mostly true to what they were originally.
Yeah,
and I think
do.
I think that
they
they're
should.
such a good tool for social commentary that it's much more interesting when they change and deal with issues that people in modern times are dealing with.
Well, I would like them to hold those values and see how they deal with it in modern times. And if they have to make those changes, watch them make those changes. But this
Sure.
Superman and Man of Steel, this Batman and the Nolan Batman trilogy, they're our generation. They grew up in the 80s. You know, this is their life that they live. They didn't grow up in the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it different. But I still feel that there are universal truths out there that sets the moral compass of goodness in humanity altogether. Of kindness, charity, generosity, patience, all those things. And Superman is supposed to emulate kind of the best of that. But he does as Superman, but as Clark Kent he can't because he's still quote-unquote human. You know, and anyways, it's exciting. It's exciting to see that. It's exciting to see that in the modern superhero age because it's not about special effects as much. I mean, even though the special effects are fantastic, and of course, if we have a 20-minute fight, that's going to be great, hopefully. And video games have changed a lot of how movies are made too because people think, well, if I can just play as Superman and beat somebody up for 20 minutes or an hour, I could do that in a video game. Why do I have to watch it in a movie? It's those character arcs and character changes that makes it important to see that. But enough about superheroes because Duckville's like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care up in there in his top window. But you got something to say, Duckville?
Spawn is the best superhero and will kill all your other silly superheroes. That's all I know.
Spawn is pretty good. Spawn is pretty good.
Is that like the Spawn movie Spawn or the actual Spawn? Like the John Leguizamo is the bad guy?
Michael
Spawn?
Jai White.
That
was a cool movie.
Luigi is the bad guy?
I liked it. Martin Sheen,
yeah, Spawn's best. Anyway, I suppose it's just the last thing I had on our to-do list was I had a little bit of a rant about Dota 2 versus SC2 in terms of I suppose overall the general gist of it is the support that the developer adds into the game. So obviously I'm like the only person who could talk about this. And if Newbie could link the blog in chat, because I linked it in the community caster thingy. I was just sort of talking about something because the Dota 2 community has recently, it wasn't a big thing, but it was just kind of they were getting a bit, no, you need to link it with the admin account, Newbie. I'm assuming that's you on the admin account for the channel. It's the Dota 2 community was just having a little bit of a cry about the fact that there's been a lot of cosmetic stuff added to Dota recently, and in theory, the progression of the development of the game has been slowed down because of this. Mm-hmm. And
let's take it a step back. Half-Life 3 has been slowed down because of this, but keep going.
And I made a post. I was just kind of like, well, you actually don't know how good it is compared to certain other games, and just kind of talking about how I really like, thank you, Newbie, how I really love all the stuff that Valve has done. There's just a few topics in there, like some people, like if you have it's a very long read. I do apologize for that, but when I get on a rant, sometimes I just keep going for days. And we're just talking about some of the things that I really like that Valve has done with Dota 2 that I wish would be in StarCraft 2. And kind of just at the end, I kind of summed it up a little bit. It's that I'm not mad at Blizzard or people at Blizzard or anything like that. It's just frustrating looking at a game like Dota 2 and seeing this awesome, wonderful support that they have. And, I want to be overjoyed by the features in StarCraft 2 like I am with Dota, but it's just hard. And I mean, I just like things like the compendium as well. Adding in, pay $10, get a really cool feature inside the game that lets you do predictions and fantasy team and even player cards. It's something really. It sounds like really immature or something like that, but player cards are really fun. They're really fun to collect them, get your favorite players and all this kind of stuff. And then not only that, but it goes towards the prize pool for the event. And I mean, it's something I kind of think. If Blizzard, let's just say if Blizzard were to introduce, like I kind of mentioned it in the blog post, let's say there was a WCS handbook where you get an interactive in-game little handbook thing people would say, Pitchfork and be like, you guys just copied this off Dota 2. I wouldn't even care. I'd say this is awesome that they're actually helping out.
This is a great idea.
Like,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it ourselves.
It'd be like, you guys copied it and you're very behind the times, but geez, at least you're actually helping out with this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Let me counter that question with one question that we got to go, Duckville. But I always appreciate your points. Would you rather have one large tournament a year for StarCraft 2, or would you rather have one smaller tournament a month?
Is the one large tournament just a single shitty weekend tournament, or is it
like
a 6-month long thing?
It's a BlizzCon like event. Would you rather have one of those and that's it, or would you rather have one tournament a month?
Is on a simplistic point of view, but I would have questions as to the extent of it. But I would rather have the one big event a year, like
it builds
TI3.
up to that event. Like
yeah,
the whole year, it's big and it's okay.
And that's the thing. Like for Blizzard, I would love to have this massive 1 year thing that is run by them, that is funded by them. They pay for the players, they pay for everything. We're talking about a company that pulls in like, what is it, $7 billion a year or some shit like that. And it's like, why can't you put some more money into this and have a big event like TI3? Leave everything else up to everyone else. Leave it to the folks at NASL. Leave it up to.
They're having the big event. It's at BlizzCon.
Yeah, but I mean.
And they're having all of the events that have happened this year for WCS.
Yeah, I know, but they're not at the same level as TI3, and it's not all about that. Like for me, it's not all about the fact that Valve does TI3 and it's magnificent. It's more about the fact that there's more support in general through the compendium, through some of the features of the game.
Through the game client.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not really that worried about the tournament kind of stuff because it is what it is.
So what you're saying is like you're more impressed with the companies like Valve and Riot that show off and include the total audience into what the competitive gaming side is doing.
Yes.
As opposed to just pumping money into or working with the competitive side that already exists. If that's what you're saying, I agree completely.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, that. Like I said in the blog post, if I could buy a TL logo that sits on my Nexus.
Closing thoughts here too, Duckville.
Yeah. If I could have
Stop talking, Duckville, jeez.
If I could have a logo on my Nexus that's for Team Liquid, and someone's like, you're a Team Liquid supporter when we're in the game. Someone's like, you're a Team Liquid supporter. Cool. Then that's cool, and that would be really nice.
No, there should be.
And it supports the game, and it gets people invested in the game as well through understanding what goes on in esports.
No, there should be microtransactions in StarCraft 2. I've been saying that. We've all been saying that for a while. Blizzard, I want to give you more money.
Yeah.
And I want that part of that money to go to helping teams or players.
Yeah.
All right. Any other words, Duckville?
No.
All right, Dave. Final words.
Thanks for having me. I think the WCS needs a format change. Something more like an NFL season than an elimination tournament where all the foreigners get knocked out and nobody cares anymore.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
I'm excited about the round of 16 around the corner. I'm also excited that Blizzard is trying to do the best they can, and it's going to be changes and whatnot in the future, but my job right now is to make the best show possible, and that's what I plan to do. Be it at the NASL studio or at the Red Bull final Battlegrounds happening in their studios in Santa Monica. So make sure to go to NASL.tv for the news releases on what's happening for the venues and for WCS. We will be starting Monday, I believe, and I look forward to that, to hang out with those 16 players and then seeing the round of 8 happening at the finals to end Season 2 for America. So it's going to be good. You can follow me on Twitter at Clutch08, my friends at DuckvilleLOL, and at DBWiggin. Thanks so much for tuning in. There will be no shifting gears next week because WCS will be happening around the 16. And after that, we'll see because I'm going to have to get ready for Vegas for WGLNA. Also, go to WGLNA.com for more information about the marathon and other such things. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.